Good afternoon. I'm Wade Fox. I'm your host for this second opinion session. I'm back to help do a little interviewing of two people that are pretty familiar. We've got Ms. Kathy Lynch here from Westford and Mr. Dennis Galvin, and they are running for the Republican State Committee, which is a position that a lot of people don't know about, but we're going to learn a lot about it and about them. And I'm going to start off with Dennis because he's an incumbent. Dennis, you're already a state committee rep. What does that mean, and how does it influence the Republican Party in Massachusetts?
First of all, welcome back, Wade. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Back by popular acclaim, right? The state committee position is basically the equivalent of a board of directors for the Republican Party for the state of Massachusetts. It has generally two functions. It sets the policy and the direction of the party as an organization, but it also has a leadership role within the different senatorial districts. There's two representatives from each senatorial district, and it's the responsibility of the state committeemen to maintain contact with local town committees, with local issues that are going on, and to constantly try to identify talent and issues that can benefit and actually assist in moving the Republican Party message forward.
Okay. Kathy, you're, first off, let's clarify, you and Dennis are not running for the same position, correct?
Correct. So there, in each senatorial district, there's 40 of them. There's one committee man and one committee woman. So he is now the committee man, and he has no opponent. I am running for committee woman, and I have an opponent. Okay.
Now, Kathy, you're in the Westford Republican Town Committee. Why do you want to run for this position at this time?
Well, Wade, I have some experience running for office. I ran for state rep in 2018, and I got an insider view about what that's like. And I saw that if you have a good candidate, they're not going to get in if you don't have the voters, right? So what I really want to do is get in and build the Republican base, get more Republicans involved, get more unenrolled to turn Republican, and some Democrats might even flip because the Democrats are going so far off to the left that a lot of the Democrats are frustrated with how things are going. So, but to build the Republican Party base and then to get more Republicans onto the legislature. Right now we have 18% Republicans on the state legislature, and that is pitiful. I mean, that's less than a quarter, and we have to increase the numbers there.
Okay. Dennis, the same question for you, a little bit different. You've been on the committee, so, you know, in returning, what do you think you've learned from your first that you're going to change in your second?
Well, there's been some significant changes in the first term. I went on because of the same concerns that Kathy just explained. And I mean, Massachusetts, while Massachusetts has a very good economy and it's a very good place to live, there are some very significant issues that are facing it that could jeopardize that, particularly the way that the state government is conducted. And so what our job is to try to identify those people that are not being served properly by the status quo, and offer some different positions and ways of looking at things that can service some of the needs that aren't being met. You know, and I think that's a very important thing. And I don't think my big criticism of the Republican Party has been that for the last 50 years, I'll say since 1968 or whatever, the party in this state has basically been not in the game. They haven't even been playing. And as a result of that, you've got a massive Democratic Party that has absolutely has a lot of resources, has a lot of access to the media, has a lot of access to jobs and things like that, and consequently, their voice gets magnified, and there's absolutely nothing to challenge it or anything to be called into question and say, hey, maybe this is the wrong direction, and that's what we'd like to be able to do.
Okay. Well, Kathy, you know, given what you've done, running and so forth, and being the chairman of the town committee, what do you think you're going to be able to bring to the committee that would be, shall we say, visible to the average Republican out there? I mean, why would they say we're going to vote for you, and how would you be different? What would you do than the current incumbent?
I think what I can do is bring more training to the people in the Republican Town Committee, training with communication, getting the word out about what's going on within the Republican Party, and letting them know that this is what it takes to get involved. There are plenty of opportunities to get out there, to hold signs for candidates, to put lawn signs on, to door knock and get out and network and meet people. And that would be my role, to get more people involved. And you know, with a background in marketing and advertising, I have a sense of how to, you know, get people involved and communicate with them. And when you have a larger base, which is what our goal is, we'll have more people to choose from to run for different office. And the goal is not just to get people into office in the state level, but also in municipal seats. You know, every town has different spots, and we need to fill all those spots with more Republicans.
Okay. Dennis, I'd like to follow up on something you were talking about. You know, given that we're in Massachusetts basically a one-party domination of the legislature, it's really critical that we have a Republican governor to get at least the Republican positions illuminated, even if we can't get bills passed. But are we too focused on listening to the governor when it comes to how to build the party?
Well, that's a very good question, and I was going to follow up anyway. I'd like to disabuse the voters of a very important, I guess, error in their thinking. There are some people that believe that if you have a Republican governor of Massachusetts and a Democratic legislature, that you have somehow bipartisan government. That's a complete falsehood. It's an error. The balance has to be in the legislature. That's where the actions, that's where the decisions in Massachusetts are made. The governor can propose legislation, the governor can veto legislation, but the real authority to enact legislation comes from the legislature. And if that legislature is all one party operating under party discipline, you've essentially lost your democracy. You don't have it. So you need to be able to make sure that you've got balance in that legislature. And the governor does what he can do, but the governor basically essentially is a lame duck. In Massachusetts, you know, Governor Baker tries very hard. He's a very well-respected, well-liked individual. But as far as being able to enact what he thinks is his vision of Massachusetts, he's a lame duck. He can't do anything because the House Speaker essentially has control over the legislature. Okay.
Well, that's an interesting position. Kathy, I'd like to kind of change it a little bit, not wanting to pile on the current governor, but somewhat in the same vein. I went back and checked over the last 30 years since Michael Dukakis was the governor. We've had 6 governors. 5 of them have been Republicans. Only 1 Democrat in the last 30 years. But the domination of the legislature by the Democratic Party has not gone down at all.
And that's what's key.
One could say that the Republican governors have been somewhat more concerned about their national political careers than building a state party here. I mean, do you agree with that, or how do you think the state committee should react to governors that come in and really seem to be parking themselves here until they step up to the next stage?
Yeah, so I agree with you that there's an issue there. When you think about our past governors, you have to consider where they fall on the political spectrum. And if they're working there to build the Republican Party, and I know from experience in 2018 that there was no help coming to the candidates that I know of. The people who were nominated at the convention, which I took a vote on, we had Jeff Deal, John McDonald, Rick Reen, myself, Jay McMahon, and I don't believe the GOP gave us much help. Okay, I know in my case that's the case, and nor did my opponent. You wouldn't see her there. So we kind of helped each other. We raised our own money. Governor Baker raised money for himself, and at the end of the term, he had like $1 million left over, and just $10,000 thrown to one of the candidates might have just made the difference. We had a candidate, Pina Principali, that had a very, very close race as a state rep. And if she just had a little bit of money from the party, she might have been able to push it over 50% to win. So I personally think that there has been an effort to suppress the growth of the Republican Party within our state. And we have a new chair right now. His name is Jim Lyons, and already I have seen positive change. He's looking at the budget. He's looking to see where the money has come in through the past and where the money is being spent. And in the past, they haven't done that. They've gotten very terse documents that had very little information about what's coming in and what's going out. And what this chair wants to do is he wants to make sure whatever's raised is going to candidates like myself when I ran, or any of the others I mentioned, and anyone throughout the state, that the money is going here to the legislative races and any kind of municipal races that are occurring. And that's a huge change. I'm really happy with Jim for doing that. I want to get onto the state committee and support him in all that work that he's doing.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Dennis, I want to kind of go back to something that you were talking about. And given what Massachusetts is called the bluest of blue states, you know, what is the impact of Massachusetts being a solid blue state all the time, particularly in these, shall we say, interesting political wins? I only like to do this because I'd like to point out that states that have been as well endowed as, shall we say, as Massachusetts are having problems. I'm talking about California, New Jersey, Connecticut, even Illinois, of where the domination of one party has led to some policies that are driving out the middle class and driving out small business owners because of taxes and supporting certain things that sound good, but you can't afford it. So you see the populations leaving those states. Massachusetts has somewhat avoided that a little bit, mainly because of its locale and the industries that it has. But do you think there's a negative connotation down the road of being blue all the time?
Yeah, there's a very, very serious connotation. If you have one political party that is perennially in charge of a government over a period of time, you're going to wind up with losing accountability. You're going to wind up with inefficiencies. You're going to wind up with inequity. You'll have patronage. You're going to have situations that are really will work against the interest of every citizen having the equal ability to be able to enjoy and experience freedom and prosperity and security in this Commonwealth. And that's why it's critical that you have a balance and attention. But I think what has probably saved Massachusetts is, I believe, essentially Massachusetts, despite the fact that it's overwhelmingly Democrat, the nature of it has always been, even among the Democratic Party, has been fairly moderate to, in some cases there used to be, I can remember Democrat conservatives. But that situation is now in play, and there is a movement to try to rid the state of any moderate Democrats and go to a very extreme left-wing agenda, which would ultimately conclude in driving the state into a condition like San Francisco or the West Coast. And I think that's something that all voters in Massachusetts, whether they are Republicans or Democrats, need to think about. I think the state needs two good parties. The Democratic Party has a role to play. The Republican Party has a role to play. But we're seeing politics that is seeking to drive out an opposite opinion. That is fatal to a society. That's going to be fatal to a society.
Okay. Kathy, I'd kind of like to ask you that same question, but a little bit challenge is that you did run for a state elected position, and you know, now you're running for the Republican State Committee, which is good. But when you see these policies that we just talked about that may probably be detrimental to most of the middle class and so forth, how do you see a person on the state committee helping to challenge that? Given the fact that, you know, there's not a lot of, you know, shall we say, moderate swing voters, swing Republicans or Democrats that you're going to influence. I mean, it's a long haul. So how do you think a state committee person could help challenge those policies?
Well, I think on the state committee there's a great opportunity to take positions, to have votes, and get the people together to put a good position together and put it out to the public and have it out to the town committee so that they can communicate it. We have a real need for messaging in the Republican Party. You know, it hasn't been working well for us so far. There's been a number of things working against the Republican Party here in Massachusetts, so there's work to do in many aspects. But getting the word out, letting people know how politics works here in Massachusetts, what needs to happen, what can improve, how we need to build up the party so it's not just a one-party state, and that we have checks and balances. I think that will be key, just getting that word out and to the public, you know, and a lot of it's just having our own press, you know, getting newsletters and using social media and that kind of thing, because sometimes it's hard to get press in a one-party state.
Can I add onto that?
Yeah.
One of the things that we've had a problem with is the Democratic Party, particularly the real left wing, views politics as a 24/7, 365-day-a-week sport. If you've ever been involved with the Republican Party, the politics only begins 6 months before an election, and then everything goes away. The new party will if we get folks like Kathy elected and we can get some other folks elected and we can preserve and support Jim Lyons, the Republican Party in Massachusetts will become a 24/7, 365-day-a-year party that will be putting out messaging, supporting candidates, trying to develop the links and the relationships with the communities to be able to offer an alternative to what we're being spoon-fed most of the time here in Massachusetts.
Well, let's put a little meat behind that, if I could.
Sure.
I know that even on a part-time basis, what would you consider the last session of the state committee's 1, 2, or 3 biggest accomplishments? What have they achieved in the last year that people would say, yeah, it's worth thinking about this race?
Well, I can tell you, first one was we replaced the chair. That was the biggest one. That was a major battle. All right.
Yeah.
The previous chair had absolutely no concern or concern about growing this party at all. Matter of fact, I think she was in some regards guilty of suppressing it. And now we were able to we went through a very long process, a contested process of changing that, and which I was very happy to be part of. And we now have a chairman that I think has some legs to him, and I think has a vision to take us into the future a little bit. So that was the biggest thing.
And also, since he's been in as the chair, there's been training. There's been training already to help candidates. I didn't see that before. I didn't get the training. I remember calling the last chair of the Republican Party, and I called her, and you know what she said to me? I'll get back to you. And guess what she didn't do? Get back to me. So he's very concerned about getting people in office. For example, in Pepperell, he was contacted by someone running for selectman, Joe Radwich, and this is a recent thing. And Jim was very eager to help him. So the party was able to donate $1,500 to his campaign so he can get door hangers and get some door knockers out there. And it pushed his vote 100 over so that he won the seat. And it turns out that his opponent's not very happy about that. Of course, no one likes to lose, but you need that ability to support people and have your own party back you up. And we've already been seeing that with Jim, and that's one of his goals.
So organize and mobilize.
Has the committee, since you're going to be new to it, has the committee set some goals for the upcoming committees, or
Yes.
do they wait till they get elected and they vote again?
No. We've set the goals, and the object in this election is to carry through into the election and come up at the other end ready to go and having our feet on the ground. And one of the two things to point out what has been done, the transfer in leadership, for example, overhead in the party. When Jim Lyons became the chairman, the party overhead, that means rent for the location for headquarters, parking and all that, was $160,000 a year, okay? It's been cut to $30,000 a year. All that extra surplus money is now being directed towards House and Senate races. What another important thing is, there are 75 House and Senate districts that have been identified in Massachusetts, for example, and profiled. For example, 40% of these of these, 40% in these districts, either 40% or greater, voted for Donald Trump in the last election. In several of these particular districts, there are Democratic incumbents who haven't been challenged in years. They're all going to get challenged this particular time around. So I think that's the type of a push that you're going to see from this chair, and we as a committee or committee members want to go in there and make sure that he gets the support to continue with this, because he'll improve Massachusetts.
Okay, good. So let me just ask you, what towns do you incorporate into this committee?
Yeah, I'll take that. So you get Westford, Groton, Pepperell, Tingsboro, Dunstable, and Lowell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very good.
And they match up, right? The men, women,
Yep.
same thing. Okay. Kathy, actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and since we've gone through this, is to be blunt, it's essentially a Republican woman running against another Republican woman for seats that is really designed, has to be a woman. So, you know, it's a very kind of focused situation. We understand why. Can you tell the people out there how you're different than what you think the incumbent is when they come to handling things on the committee? What sets you apart in this
Not an
campaign?
incumbent. She's running. They're not an incumbent. The incumbent's not running.
Oh, there's not an incumbent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So it's an open seat.
Yep.
But so I've been out there already helping, as I mentioned before, some of these candidates that were great candidates. You know, we worked together, we support each other, we were doing campaign work together, and I will continue that moving forward. And I will spread that out more so to the other towns within this district. I know that you know, I've said some things. I think that that there can be an effort to build the party rather than suppress it, and I think the numbers show that there's been suppression. So this isn't coming, you know, from left field, so I want to build the party, and I believe that we need to move away from status quo and establishment. This is more of a I guess you wouldn't want to call it a grassroots movement, but this is people that want to serve people instead of serving the power structure. I want to get out there, and I want to help the people in the district. I want to help the Republican town committees, the city committee. I want to help bring them resources, training, and communication. And that's what we need to build the party. The Republicans in Massachusetts are very frustrated. A lot of them move into the unenrolled spot because they're afraid to say they're Republican, and we need to stop that. We need to make it safe for people to speak their mind and stand up for what they believe, because all of Massachusetts is not blue. We have a lot of red parts of Massachusetts, and that's particularly in the center of Massachusetts. And that's true of the country as well. The center of the United States is red, and it's just the wings here. And we happen to be in the wings, and it's really important that we stand up to those people here that have control in these big city areas. So I want to go in there and really just help to get the word out to all the people, instead of focusing on power and money and you know, keeping people in their positions and patronage. I want to go in and I want to help build the party so that we can elect more Republicans and get them in the state legislature.
Okay, Dennis, just quick update. All the towns that you mentioned, do they all have town committees?
2 of them do not.
Okay, I mean, is that a goal?
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
that you've got?
I want to help that.
I know about the Westford one, but I wasn't sure about everybody
We
else.
have Groton has a committee, Pepperell has a committee, Westford has a committee. I would say 6 of the 11 wards in Lowell have committees. Tingsboro and Dunstable do not. We've made significant efforts to try to get them started, but at this point they have not done so. So we're working on that.
All right. And the date of the election is when?
March 3rd, 2020.
March 3rd? Okay. Now,
And don't forget, early voting begins on February 24th. So please go out and vote in this election, because this is a vote that really counts. Most people say, well, what difference does it make voting in this primary? This election, the primary vote for the state committee, Republican State Committee in Massachusetts, is a very critical vote.
So, and that was going to be my next question. Dennis, I'm not sure about you, but Kathy, do you have a contact for people that want to help, or how does this work when you're working on the state committee?
Well, I have my email address and I have my webpage. My email is kathy.lynch@me.com, and you can learn more about me at votekathylynch.com. Facebook, Vote Kathy Lynch. I kind of wanted to address your last question, but
Okay, feel free.
what was it again? Anyway, it skipped over me.
Okay, Dennis.
All you have to do is Google Dennis Galvin Westford, and it'll all come up, and you'll have a field day.
Okay.
Either pro or con, one or the other. It's all
sure.
there.
Well, I'm sure that it's going to be a great election for y'all. I am hopeful that the state committee will certainly turn the corner and go forward with it. We've got just about another minute. Do you want to have any closing statements at all?
Well, I just remember what I wanted to say. People think, well, why should I vote if it's just Trump and he has no chance of winning in Massachusetts? Well, you know what? When you vote for Trump, first of all, he may have a chance. But number two, we get to see, there are voter lists, and we get to see where the people are that are Republican that think it's important to get out and vote for the presidential candidate. It's very important to see who our active Republicans are. And then we have the state committee race, and I'm backing Trump, and my opponent, I think, is backing Weld. So there's a difference there. And there's a couple of other presidential candidates on the ballot, which I don't even know them. They just have no name recognition. And also, the people that are going to go to the polls are going to vote for their town committee members. So it's good, and it's good practice. It's good for the young people to get out and start voting and learning how the whole political process works, and to make an impact in our state.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you both for your time, and I want to say I hope that you've enjoyed this. Hope you've learned a lot. And just remember, if you're ever confused, always ask for a second opinion.